Hi, Sass. It's been
Hi,
so
River.
long.
Oh, yes.
I haven't seen you in ages. Ladies and
It's been
gentlemen,
years.
we are we've had technical difficulties for the last half hour. We're very angry. But that's the spice, that's the heat we bring to episode 3 of the Scry Guys podcast.
The spice and the heat.
The spice and
The
the heat. Scry Guys.
How are you doing, my son?
I feel like you know how I've been doing by this point, but I've been doing good. Yeah, I did pre-release this weekend. I've been hanging out with my buddy, trying to learn how to use a computer. How have you been doing?
Okay. I missed out on pre-release, but you know what? It is what it is. Life moves on. I had a great weekend regardless.
Yeah. Tell me about what you were doing this weekend instead of playing Magic.
I went to Vero Beach with some friends. We went to the beach and we had nice drinky drinks. We had a nice breakfasts out to dinner. Played with a dog. I can't do English right now because I've had a long day, but you know what? It is what it is.
That's pretty good. That actually sounds like a
Yeah.
better day than going to pre-release, I'm not going to lie.
It was pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. I had a great time.
I did pre-release on Sunday. I missed Friday and Saturday, sadly, but yeah, I did pre-release. I feel like I was very impressed by the set. I really enjoyed the station mechanic. I thought was a lot better than I expected. I feel like Warp also seems really, really insane. So like, the card Mechanozoa.
Yeah.
This card,
Yes.
I just think this card is really, really good. I mean, I don't know if in draft it's
Really?
going to be good. In sealed, I felt like I was like getting so much value out of like, not only does this function as like 2 removal spells because you can warp it as a like stun thing and then you can also play it later and get a stun, but I found a lot of times there would be like a moment where I already had a spacecraft on the battlefield. I would warp this in as a removal spell and then immediately station my spacecraft. And so it was like giving me so much value just from the warp. And then later on in the game, I would like look over at my exile zone and be like, oh shit, I have a 5/5 that can stun a thing. I can just play that.
I'm not sold on this yet, but I gotta play. I haven't played the set yet.
Bro, look at this.
I don't know.
Look at this jellyfish boy.
It's just Ice Flan from last set, man. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I think
I'm
this
just gonna
is
be
so
honest.
much better than Ice Flawed. I think that's.
I know it is. I know. I know. I gotta play with Warp. I gotta play with Spacecraft. I'm not sold on the Spacecraft, but like I was telling you earlier, I think I gotta open the doors and horizon to the set, and I gotta play it to see if Spacecraft are actually good.
Expand your mind.
Yeah, in my mind.
Cool. Well, hi everyone. I'm River. A fun fact about me this week is that I have a secret story about a time that I was almost murdered by a stranger involving sharks, and it's going to remain a secret because the entire 5-minute epic saga of this story was deleted in our podcast technical difficulties. So
It'll
maybe
be-
one day if we have a Patreon, this will
Yeah.
be the first piece of
Yeah.
content.
It's actually a really good idea. Wow. And then I'll just say the same thing I said the last time we recorded. I really enjoy manga and anime. It's a big part of my life.
It truly is. How many tattoos that are related to manga and anime do you think you have?
2. Well, 3, but I don't count one of them because I think anyone would look at it and be like, that's some meaning to him because it's just letters and numbers. But I have 2 panels, and I have one from One Piece that is literally just letters and numbers.
How would anyone know it's from One Piece? Is it like a really popular moment?
You would have to be a big fan to get the reference. It's a very it's at a pretty pivotal point in the story. You'd You'd have to have gotten to like at least more than halfway through the millions of chapters there are to understand the reference.
Do you think your tattoo artist understood the reference? Like, did they know what they were doing?
Yeah. Well, the tattoo artist I had specified in anime and manga stuff. Like, that was their whole thing.
Gotcha. That's actually really cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, so we have a bunch of stuff to talk about today. The first thing is the obligatory shout out to the funny that Wizards did on accident, which is regarding the card Diplomatic Relations.
Oopsie! So we made a fucky wucky. I'm going to read this
for our they made a fucky wucky for our listening only audience. We have Diplomatic Relations is 2 and a green for an instant, and it says target creature gets +1/+0 and gains vigilance until end of turn. It deals damage to it equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. So I read this and I was like, oh, okay, it's your classic draft instant speed bite spell. But that's not exactly true. Sass, you want to explain?
Yeah, so they forgot the line of text. You control. Instead of target creature gets +1/0 and fights, it's target creature it should be target creature you control gets. So what you could do is if they did not errata it and change the text in this article, you could have a creature an opponent controls basically like deal its own damage to itself or to another creature they control, which I thought I see now why that'd be too strong, but originally I didn't realize that you could have the creature do the power to itself if it was read as it was. So I thought it was okay because they printed it at 3 mana. But now realizing after I talked about this with River that you could just have a creature do its damage to itself and not just fight another creature, that God, that sounds so I'm like listening to myself like hear that back and I'm just like, God, that probably sounds really, really confusing. But like basically all I'm trying to say is that like I thought the effect didn't need to be errata because of the 3 mana cost, and usually that effect is at 2 mana or 1 mana. But after talking about it, I understand why they had to errata it because it would have been really, really strong.
Yeah, so like Sass alluded to, they published this article that basically they realized that they actually printed the card wrong in paper. And so for the first time that I think I've seen in my whole time playing Magic, they actually issued a statement that says, hey, even though we already literally printed the text on this card, we're actually going to go back and modify it so that when you play this at pre-release, it now says target creature you control gets +1/+0 and blah, 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 blah. So you can't like make your opponent's creature fight itself or bite itself.
Is this the first time they've done this since the companion thing? Because this is also the first time this has happened for me too.
I would believe it, yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing that I think is really fucking hilarious about this is that apparently the Arena devs also didn't think that it was a typo. They thought that it was actually supposed to be like that. And the card was originally coded on Arena as like you could have a creature bite itself. And it wasn't until like they actually started spoiling things and the fans caught this that Wizards was like, oh, actually, Arena, please go back. Please change this. So now it works as it's supposed to in Arena, and you just have to remember how it's supposed to work if you're playing a draft or you're playing this in paper for any other reason.
This shit is so funny, specifically because of the name. It's just so fucking funny.
I know. Such a funny card. There's also another misprint that I think is pretty interesting, which is Genemorph Anago. So this guy is... who cares about the actual card? This card's trash. Unless you have a commander deck. I don't know. But we don't. So this card's trash. The normal card is fine. It's just like a 2-mana creature that does some garbage. But the cool borderless version, which I think is really neat art, they actually printed a legend crown onto this non-legendary creature. I don't know why. I don't know how this didn't get caught. Maybe their quality control is declining, but as you can see, the normal text box has that crown around it that's normally reserved for legendary creatures.
Wait, so you know what I just realized? Because You were telling me previously that Wizards wants it to be a non-legend, or they want it to be a non-legendary creature, correct?
Yeah, this is not supposed to be a legendary creature. The text is all correct. It's just the art of the title box has the legend crown for no reason.
So that means little Timmy is going to pull this in draft, and he's going to want to make this his commander, but he can't, even though it looks like he can.
No,
I just realized
Timmy.
that. Like, that's actually so sad, because like the art, especially the borderless one, is really, really, really cool, and it sucks that this card just sucks in competitive play, because like I would have loved for there to have been like a cheap Simic card that would have been good, but I don't know.
You know what they should do is they should also go back and errata this card to have a line at the bottom that says, "This creature can be your commander."
I mean, that would make little Timmy very happy.
Okay, that's it for spoilers. So we have a few different things that we want to talk about today. Sass had some things to talk about. I wanted to talk about a few of the new mechanics that I think will impact Standard. And we have a few different brews to share as well. Sass, where do you want to get started?
Where do you think we should get started? Because I feel like a lot of this is going to be me ranting about. I told River that before we started this, when we were talking about like what we're going to talk about today. So as we're recording this, today is the 28th of July. That's the month we're in, right? Yeah. This is the day before Edge of Eternities is paper legal and goes on Arena, or is it already paper legal in tournaments?
Yeah, it's paper legal as of the first pre-release. So it is
Okay.
already, if you go to a paper Standard tournament, actually wildly enough, I don't know if rotation happens until the 31st, which means that I think right now, technically in paper, you can play
wow.
Edge of Eternities and you can play all of the stuff that has technically rotated, but just for like this like
What?
2 or 3 day period. Yeah.
But that's only in paper, because on Arena, I know that it's going to rotate tomorrow. Like, there's no way they don't do that.
Yeah, on Arena it will be rotated tomorrow by
Okay.
the time Edge hits. Yeah.
We have a 3-day meta. That's so crazy. That'd be so interesting. That's actually really interesting. Anyway, what I was gonna say is I just think a lot of this, because it's the day before Edge of Eternities, like we don't have we could talk about Spider-Man spoilers, but I think we can wait on that. The main thing I just want to talk about is just like I have a rant about Universes Beyond that I want to do, and then I know you have some brews that you want to do. I'm leaving it up to you where you want to go first.
Okay, how about, because I think that your rant is going to be the most exciting, impassioned
Sure.
part of the podcast. Let's save that for the
Sure.
end. And
Okay.
Let's build to that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Standard and how I think the new mechanics are going to impact Standard.
Yeah.
So let's quickly just run through the few mechanics that are in Edge of Eternities, because they're all really unique and I don't think we've talked about them so far.
Mhm.
So let's start with lander tokens, because I think this is a really neat effect. So I'm pulling up Biomechan Engineer, which is
Biomechan.
Biomechan Engineer. It's a 2/2 for green and a blue, and it says when it enters, you create a lander token. And then it's got a big mana sink at the bottom too. But if we talk about the lander token for a second and the implications of this. So a lander token is very similar to a food token or a lot of other artifact tokens, except this one, you pay 2, tap, and sack it to search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. What do you think about this in terms of constructed play, Sass?
I feel like I should know the answer to this question, but you can't grab shocks off of this, correct? Or can you?
No, it specifies it has to be a basic land.
Okay, all right. I don't know why in my head I thought basic land was under that too, but I know it's like worded differently for fetches. So I was like,
Have a
is it
basic
the
land
same
type, I
wording?
think. Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I mean, I don't really think lander token. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think lander token has a big implication for constructed play. Personally, like I feel like this just from the cards that have lander token on them. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I kind of feel like the same. It's it's hard to evaluate really because I haven't seen a card that generates lander tokens that I think that it's like so insane or super busted or something, but I do think that a lander token is inherently powerful because it's literally just a rampant growth. It's a rampant growth token.
Yeah.
And like rampant growth is a powerful card, right? So I would be shocked if there's never any deck that can play a lander token just because I think that ramping for 2 mana in addition to like whatever the original card that creates the lander token is, that seems like it's got to see play somehow at some point. I don't know.
I don't know. I just think like standard as a format is just like it's so fast that the only cards that can like ramp right now, like if we think of true ramp, right? The ramp cards that we think about are Fenrir and the Green Overlord. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. So, and those are really, really powerful ramp effects, like extremely powerful ramp effects.
True.
So I don't know if Rampant Growth can compete with the Green Overlord and Fenrir because those are like the best ones.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think this is going to be one of those mechanics that like we probably don't see for a while, and then maybe at some point somebody realizes there's a busted ramp deck involving lander tokens. That's kind of my thought.
Yeah, maybe. What is the art of the lander token? Do you want to pull that up?
Yeah. Is there like, can you pull up the token on Scryfall? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I have it. I have it open in front of me right now. You want me to send it to you? There you go.
Here, I'll just Google it. I don't think I can see the chat super well.
It's I don't know. I think it's like some weird alien ship that is about to land.
Huh. So there's
I think that's what it is.
Ones. There's like 5 of them. So
there
there's
are.
like they're all different ships that look like they're about to land.
Oh, they're all the different factions in this
that's actually really
thing
cool.
landing. All right, I got it.
That's a very neat little piece of world building, actually.
I've only seen the green one because I haven't seen all the arts for the tokens. So this actually is a little bit cooler. I think the jellyfish race is so fucking cool, by the way.
I know, I love the jellyfish. So aside from landers, the next one we should talk about, let's talk about Station. So this is an exclusive to spacecraft, which are basically like vehicles, except instead of crewing them to become a creature for the turn, you like progressively station them over time by tapping creatures you control, and they become a creature eventually. So Station explicitly says, tap another creature you control, put charge counters equal to its power on this spacecraft, station only as a sorcery. So like, if we pick, we'll go to the one that Sass is like obsessed with, is we talked about last week, Synthesizer Lab Ship. It has Station, so you can tap any number of creatures as a sorcery, and then if it gets 2+ charge counters, it gets its first effect, and then if it gets 9+ charge counters, it becomes a Flying Vigilance 4/4 creature. What do you think about Station generally?
I think it's bad. I think this shit's fucking awful. I'm just gonna be so real, bro. Like, I just this shit is so bad. Like I don't see it. I really don't. Like I'm so open to like being wrong, but like I just like straight do not see this mechanic being good. It reads bad and it looks bad. There's 2 station cards, and I don't even want to include the one that you highlighted already that I like. But the Anthem one, that's literally it. I don't see any of the others being good enough. Like I just think it is too much of a commitment to do something like that in standard. Like I don't know. What do you think? Like I just think they're all bad. I don't see Station being good. I'm open to one of the planets being good, but like that's it. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm looking at the Anthem one, which is Lumen class frigate. It's 1 and a white for station, and if you station it for 2, it pumps your team +1/+1, and then 12+ can be a flying lifelink 3/5. Even that I think is like kind of slow, but see, here's my quandary here is I was absolutely in the same boat as you, the entire time throughout spoiler season. And I think most people that I've talked to and heard talking about this format generally have all been in this boat of like stations just not efficient enough. But when I played Limited yesterday in the pre-release, I was way more impressed than I expected to be. Like, it felt like it was way easier to station things than I had thought. It definitely doesn't seem like what you want to be doing in an aggro deck, but if you're trying to go over the top, I think you don't really mind using your creatures to station, especially because you can decide on the timing of it in terms of like, do I want to wait this turn and just have a big blocker, or do I feel safe and I can go ahead and make progress stationing? So I don't know, it's hard to say, but I could maybe see someone finding a way to break one of these in standard. I don't know. Well, I think it's one of those wait and see.
I think you got to evaluate these I don't know who it was who said to evaluate battles like this, but you evaluate it based on what you get up front, and then the rest is candy, right? So like, and I think having that mindset when we were doing battles in Mom really helped me evaluate cards like this. Like, these aren't the same as rooms, because like rooms just give you, it's just 2 cards in one. You're just drawing 2 cards. This isn't 2 cards in one. This is like an effect, and maybe it becomes a creature.
I just, like, if that's the case, like, I don't think any of these are good.
Yeah.
Without being a creature.
Yeah. And I think that's correct. Like, I think I really do. I think the only one that is good is the Anthem one, because it's so easy to turn the Anthem online, and the Anthem is just good.
Okay, one that impressed me yesterday. This is a rare. It's called Sledge Class Seed Ship.
Okay.
It's 2 and a green, and it has no ETB effect, which made me super dubious of it. I literally just tossed it in my deck because I was trying to play a grindy late game deck, and it seemed like it had a powerful effect, and I was like, maybe this will work at some point. It's just a 3 mana card with station, and it does nothing until you get 7+ station charge counters on it. But when you do, it's a 4/5 flyer that when it attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. And I felt like often the play pattern of this was I played it on turn 3, and then on turn 4 I played like a 4-power creature, immediately stationed this, and then on turn 5 I was able to use the same creature to station it again to give it the full number of counters it needed. And then I was attacking with a 4/5 flyer that put the biggest creature from my hand onto the battlefield for free. And then I still had my 5 mana from turn 5 able to play something. So it actually felt really, really good to me in Limited. I mean, granted, I have no idea if that's something you can ever do in a competitive, constructive format like Standard. I think it's way too slow for something like Modern, but
yeah,
maybe something like this has a shot in Standard. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think hands down it has no shot in Standard. Like, let's just use the example of like Sledge Class Seed Ship, right? Like, you're gonna play this in like some mono green deck, or like, just, I don't know, like, let's say I'm just gonna throw it in the sake of like Golgari, right? Turn 1 I go Llanowar Elves. Turn 3 I get to, or turn 2 I get to play Sledge Class Seed Ship, right? I'm gonna keep tapping 1 and eventually get 7 for a 3 mana do nothing. This is just one example, right? But like, even if like I had like turn 1 the 2/2, turn 3 or turn 1 the 2/2, the Edge Rover thing, turn 2 the I don't know, some 2 mana 3/3 in green. I know there's the one that exiles shit from the graveyard, right? I have 5 station and I can only like do this at sorcery speed, right? So like, even at turn 3, I still need 2 more counters for the card to even be a real thing. Like, I don't know. I just don't. And again, this is just this example. I just don't see this being anything in Standard whatsoever. I'm totally open to being wrong on this. Like, watch it change. But I can see. I'm totally open to opening the blinders and like seeing this be a potential thing that is good in draft. Because my hope is that they would not introduce this crazy cool new mechanic for a draft set and it just to flop terribly. Because, like, there's a lot of cards that are just designed around spacecraft. So, like, I'm sure, and, you know, like I said earlier, there's a Lords of Limited episode that I'm going to watch on the way to work tomorrow that's titled Spacecraft is Actually Good. Like, I'm sure it probably is not that bad in a limited format. But I just don't see this being good and constructed at all.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if this is, like you mentioned earlier, really similar to Battles, where they were pretty pivotal in the draft format for that set. And so I don't remember if there's like a Pro Tour Edge of Eternities, but if there is, like, I can see that being really important for the competitive players going there for the limited portion. But I don't know about the constructed stuff generally. Like, maybe it's just not going to see play in Standard like the way that Battles never really saw play in Standard, with a couple minor exceptions. But I think also we should talk about the other mechanic, which is Warp, because Warp goes really well with Station. So the way that Warp works, and I'm just going to pull up an example here. Let me not use that one because that one's a weird example. Let's use Anti-Causal Vestige. This is the Eldrazi from the set, the single Eldrazi they printed. So it's a 6-mana 7/5 Eldrazi. It's colorless. It says when it enters the when it leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Then you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So you just cheat something out with this if it leaves the battlefield. But instead of paying 6 for it up front, you can pay the warp cost, which is warp 4. And it says you may cast this card from your hand for its warp cost, exile this creature at the beginning of the next end step, then you may cast it from exile again on a later turn. So basically you can cheat this in for cheap, have it on the battlefield until the end of the turn, and then tuck it away in exile to play for its normal cost later. And this plays nicely with Station because it lets you cheat out a big creature and not be able to attack or block with it in most cases, but at least be able to, like, station, because you can still station even if the creature is summoning sick. And then it also gets a nice little effect like this one. When it leaves from the warp, you put something onto the battlefield. So what do you think of Warp in Standard? Because we got a lot of Warp cards, I think more so than any other of the mechanics.
I think Warp is the best mechanic from the set. I think it's really, really cool. It's really, really powerful. It is very, very flexible in what it does. And, like, I think this should have been the mechanic that was, like, it feels like in this set, like, spacecraft is supposed to be, like, I think in every set there's, like, one mechanic that's, like, the standout mechanic. And I think Wizards wanted it to be spacecraft in this set. And I really think it should have been Warp, because Warp is really, really, really interesting and very, very good, and is going to have a lot of implications in every format. It's just a very, very good mechanic. Like, being able to, like, get value on one side, and, like, I'm not even going to get into, like, how this actually, I will. Like, I think, you know, in the past, like, week, like, there have been a lot of brews that have come out, and I just think all the brews in Standard that have to deal with Splash Portal in this is really interesting. Do you want to pull up Splash Portal and how that affects Warp?
Yeah, so we've seen several people brew with Splash Portal. I was watching an Arnie video on this earlier, but it's a single blue for a sorcery that says exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If that creature is a bird, frog, otter, or rat, draw a card. I don't think any of the warp cards are birds, frogs, otters, or rats. Actually, there might be a bird. But the important thing about this is that you're basically blinking or flickering, however you want to think about it, one of your creatures. And so you can, I think probably the most powerful card you can do this with is Quantum Riddler, which is a 4/6 flyer that draws a card on ETB. And it normally costs 5, but you can warp it for 2. So basically, if you warp this in for 2, you get the ETB, and then if you immediately target it on the same turn with the Splash Portal and flicker it, it will have forgotten that it was warped when it comes back onto the battlefield. And so it just re-enters the battlefield, draws you another card from the ETB, and then stays there as a 4/6 flyer. And you can do that with any of the warp cards, really. So Splash Portal being the primary flicker effect in Standard might create some brews with this.
I think it's going to. I think I think the ability to play a bunch of warp cards with Splash Portal, and then the other card that has a similar effect that's from this set is the All Fates Stalker, or whatever it is. These are both effects that are similar. They're flicker effects that are very akin to Ephemery, that I think all work very, very nicely with warp.
Yeah. It's funny because All Fate's Stalker it has warp on it. It's
Yeah.
3 and a white, and it has the O-ring effect. When it enters, you exile another creature until it leaves. But it
Right.
also has warp for 1 and a white, so you can just basically warp it in, exile something, and then this warps out and the other thing comes back in.
So something I was actually just thinking about, right? And you tell me, because I feel like you might know this better than I do. How does this chain of events work, right? Let's say I warp in the Riddler. It's there until the end of turn. I target it with Splash Portal. At instant speed, when I'm targeting it with Splash Portal, my opponent has some, like, let's just say Shoot the Sheriff on the Riddler, right? Because it didn't go back to exile and it went to graveyard, I don't get to play it later.
Yeah, and I think this is the primary weakness of this whole strategy.
Right.
It's like you basically get super blown out by a removal spell.
Yeah. Yep.
You just lose both the thing that you're warping and the Splash Portal that you're trying to use to flicker it. You've just wasted both of those cards to your opponent's removal spell.
So, it's funny. I didn't realize that until literally. I'm just having this revelation on the podcast right now in real time. So now that I'm thinking this, I'm like, okay, maybe that actually, because that's gonna happen. That is gonna happen a lot.
I do think
So
that this
maybe
is the kind of deck that will like cheese people week 1 of the format, and then once people realize how it works, you just hold up your removal spell and your opponent can never trigger their Splash Portal effect. I do think a really interesting version of this is Timeline Color, which I know we talked about before.
Yeah.
But the ability to warp it in not only from your hand but from your graveyard, I think is just so strong in any sacrifice deck because it allows you to just keep sacking this and warping it back in for 1 mana.
I was thinking about it, and I think Timeline Color is probably one of the most insane uncommons in a while. Like, this is going to go in every sacrifice deck from now on until the end of time. This is going to go in any, like, mono black deck that wants to be aggressive. This is probably going to go in, like, any low to the ground multicolor black deck. This is also really, really good for any cards that have synergy with warp or just keywords that say leave the battlefield, right? Like, I don't know, like, Timeline Color is just really, really, really good.
I agree. And I think that it also goes really well with the last mechanic, which is Void. Warp just plays so well with Station and Void, because Void says whenever sorry, let me find a better example. I was going to use Alpha Rael, which is a very confusing version of Void.
Do the 1 mana removal spell, because that's the best. Tragic Trajectory, because that's I think going to be like the best
the most
example.
likely to see play. So yeah, Tragic Trajectory is a single black mana for a sorcery, and it says target creature gets -2/-2 until the end of turn. But it also has Void, and it says that creature gets -10/-10 until the end of the turn if a non-land permanent left the battlefield or a spell was warped this turn. So what this means is that at baseline, this is a sorcery speed stab, which is not great. It's okay. But the Void is giving like big Fatal Push vibes, because this is basically saying if you find a way to get anything off the battlefield, then this is just a -10/-10. Did you say this is better than Fatal Push? Is that what you think?
No, it's not better, but like it's gonna feel better at times, because I know Fatal Push is a better card than this, but I was like, in my head I'm like, well, it's it's even better because like -10/-10 is better than what's the text on Fatal Push again? It's less than 4 mana value if you revolt.
4 or less. Yeah.
4 or less, yeah. Like, that's going to kill bigger things. But Fatal Push is better all the time because it's instant speed, and it just hits so many things.
Yeah, I do think that's an important difference, is the base mode on Tragic Trajectory is way worse than the base mode on Fatal Push, and Fatal Push is also easier to trigger the upgraded ability, the Revolt. I do think that, like, in a world where you're always revolting Fatal Push and you're always voiding Tragic Trajectory, I think I would actually choose to play Tragic Trajectory at least some of the time, depending on the format, because I do think the sorcery speed is kind of a nerf, but -10/-10 can kill any creature, not just a 4-drop or less. So.
But I feel like they have to give black, like black needs to have the, like, it should be in the color identity that black is the color that gets to most efficiently blow up creatures. Like, that's just what black should be known for, right? Like, if white got to do that better, that wouldn't really make sense.
I agree. And I think this is probably the best 1-mana black removal spell in Standard now.
Yes, I agree.
Something I learned the hard way at pre-release is Void also triggers if your opponent's stuff left the battlefield.
Yeah.
So I wasn't thinking about that, and I mean, to be fair, I wasn't playing around anything because it was pre-release, but my opponent made an attack, I chump blocked, and he was like, okay, second main, I'll play this thing that has Void. And I was like, oh, well, nothing left your battlefield this turn. And he was like, oh, no, it's if anything left the battlefield this turn. So my permanent leaving triggered his Void.
It's really funny because, you know what, is I also watched that Arne video, and this is so funny because I was watching him, and he's like, I can't kill that, it's too big, it's not in range of Tragic Trajectory. But he doesn't realize that Tragic Trajectory is turned on literally because of what you just said. And so he, like, doesn't Tragic Trajectory and Overlord because of literally what you just said in that same video. It's so fucking funny.
I think this also makes super interesting gameplay moments where your opponent might look like they're chump attacking you, like they could swing their 1/1 into your, like, 5/5 or whatever. But you actually have to seriously sit there and think about, like, okay, if they have a Tragic Trajectory, me blocking their 1/1 will allow them to kill my 5/5 with their Tragic Trajectory.
Yeah.
So do I actually block, or do I just take the 1? So this is almost like a combat trick in that sense.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking about this too. Yeah. And this is especially good with just, like, big creatures that want to get in, and specifically the Sunset Saboteur, which we'll talk to when we'll get to that later.
Okay. So those are the 4 main mechanics. I think if I had to rate them in terms of power level and likeliness to see play, I would say number 1, Warp by a long shot, followed by Void, followed by Lander Tokens maybe, and Spacecraft maybe, depending on what we actually see happening.
I would agree, and I think it's crazy to say that Lander Tokens are probably we're going to be seeing people putting Lander Tokens onto the battlefield more than stations in Standard. I think that's 100% going to be the case.
I would believe that. Crazy times out here. So with that in mind, I had a few brews that I thought would be fun to talk about in both Standard and Modern. These are things that I personally have just been brewing, and so they might be complete jank. But we'll start with this. So this is a mono black Standard brew that I've been working on. So I think that there is very good mono black additions in this set. Specifically, we have things like Archenemy's Charm, which we've talked about previously, but this card is just so flexible for what it does. It's black, so 3 mana for an instant, and you can choose one of 3 modes. Exile target creature or planeswalker, return 1 or 2 target creature or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand, or put 2 1/1 counters on a creature and it gains lifelink until the end of the turn. So it's a 3 mana removal spell for a creature or planeswalker, or it's a 3 mana recursion spell for 2 creatures or planeswalkers, or it's a 3 mana combat trick that buffs your creature permanently and gives lifelink. And while each of those modes independently I don't think is worth 3 mana, I think having the flexibility of any one of them all at instant speed makes this a very, very powerful, flexible, kind of mid-rangey card. And so I built this deck that's kind of designed around mono black, and it's trying to be a little bit aggressive and a little bit mid-rangey. So I'm running Cecil, 4 copies of Cecil as just like the premium black 1-drop. I'm running Carsey Revenant, just a premium black 3-drop. I think Timeline Color is another great addition to this deck. It's just such a powerful 2-drop that you can do so many different things with. And then I'm also trying to put a demon package in here to make this a little bit more grindy. So I have the Unholy Annex, which of course we know is the demon-based value engine for black decks. And then I put Rot Curse Rakshasa and Demon Wall in here. I'm not super convinced by this demon package, to be honest, and I think that maybe there's some room for flexibility of whether this works or not. But if you're being aggressive enough, I do think that Rot Curse Rakshasa could be a reasonable include. And then, of course, there's the removal package of the Tragic Trajectories, the Shoot the Sheriffs. And one other card that I wanted to make note of that I think not a lot of people have been eyeing, but that I think is very good, is Sunset Saboteur. This is 1 and a black for a 4/1 menace with ward, discard a card, which is very, very powerful. And it does have the downside that when this creature attacks, you have to put a 1/1 counter on target creature an opponent controls. But for 2 mana, a 4/1 with evasion and such a powerful ward, I think this is a really strong aggressive card. You're just going to be able to get in for like huge chunks of damage with this. Even though you're putting counters on your opponent's stuff, I think that doesn't matter as much when you're in a deck that is black and running a ton of removal spells. Like this deck is running 11 removal spells, so I think that's less of a downside. And the menace also means that like sometimes this is just going to be an unblockable creature. They can't pick it off with the removal spell without discarding a card and 2-for-1ing themselves. So I just think this is a really strong black card. What do you think of this deck, Sass? I want to hear your thoughts, and then I want you to rate this deck on a scale of 1 to 10.
I like this deck a lot, actually. I thought of the 2 brews that you made, I really actually like this. I thought this was a really good idea. Like, I didn't think about trying, like, the baby demon package to get. I call Demon Wall and, like, Rot Curse Rakshasa the baby demons because, like, they're the cheap demons. I really think it's a good idea. I think I want to play a lot with Sunset Saboteur. I've come up a lot on it from just being convinced by you and other people. I think the only thing I would actually change in this list that you've created is just, I think Carsey should be Preacher of the Schism, because I think you just want more, like, this isn't enough way. I know I'm going to get memed on for this, but, like, I really do think in this case you need more ways to draw cards in this deck. Like, I don't think Unholy Annex and Arch Enemy's Charm is enough recursion. I think Carsey needs to be Preacher of the Schism, and then you could have Carsey in the side in this. But I think this is a really interesting list that I want to try out. I really, really like this list.
I would love it if you try this out and give me your feedback in next week's episode or some other time. I think that would be really cool.
I 100% plan to. Tomorrow is going to be a fucking great day. Holy shit.
So I think my other brew is a little bit more out there. This one, oh, sorry. Before we go on, what's your rating for this deck out of 10?
I could see this being like a legitimate standard. Like, I wouldn't call this like I feel like people are going to call this mono black aggro, and I hate when people like call a black deck aggro, because there's like, I feel like there really isn't any true aggro black deck. Like, I feel like people just throw aggro onto whatever they want. I think this is going to be a pretty good mid-range deck. Like, I would give this like a 7 out of 10. Like, I could see this being like a B or like a C plus tier deck in standard. Like, I like, honest to God, like, I you know me, I love like mono black decks. Like, this looks like a really cool one.
That's kind of where I'm at too. Like, I don't think that this is going to be a tier 1 deck, but I do feel like you could take this or some variant of this to like your FNM and have fun with it and like, you know, not get completely stomped on. Like, I think that you have a winning shot with this.
I think you could take this to an RCQ and win this next weekend.
Yeah, maybe. Hell, let's try it. So, okay,
I might.
That's a 7 out of 10. Bro is so obsessed with black. So this is my Azorius Pixie list. And this one I think is a little bit more experimental. But I was testing this today and it does seem really strong. So let me go through and chat about what these cards are. So we know Pixie. This is a deck that's been around forever. I say forever, and it's been like 9 months or something. That's how long we've been playing Standard. It's just like warped our expectations. This has the classic blue and white components of the Pixie package. So Storm Chaser's talent is a really good thing to be dropping and picking up. And then it's got the Fear of Isolation to pick things up, Nurturing Pixie to pick things up, Sun Pearl Kirin. These are all really familiar cards. In this shell, I also thought it would be interesting to add Lightstall Inquisitor as a thing to pick up and put down. We talked about this briefly on another episode, but it's a single white mana for a 2/1 Vigilance that on ETB your opponent exiles a card from their hand and has to pay 1 extra to play it, or has to play the land tapped if it was a land. So I think that this could just get really annoying for your opponent if you keep picking up and putting this down and forcing them to play off curve. I also added the Splash Portal package we were talking about earlier, Splash Portal and Quantum Riddler, to get a ton of advantage if this resolves. And then I also think that Cosmogrand Zenith is really good in this deck. And Sass was testing with me the other day, and a similar build to this, where Cosmogrand Zenith was really shining, because by picking things up and putting things down, you're casting 2 spells so many times, and Cosmogrand Zenith is the 3 mana 2/4 that whenever you cast your second spell, you can either create 2 1/1 soldiers or put a counter on everything. And especially in a deck where you're like constantly pumping out otter tokens and playing all of these little flyers, putting counters on everything is really, really strong. Now, I also put in a few Seam Rips just because I think this is a really powerful removal spell. To be fair, this deck probably could use more removal. I am bad about brewing with just like never putting removal in my decks, so I think this needs to be tweaked a little bit in terms of seeing standard play. But I think the most powerful part of this entire deck is actually Cryogen Relic. This is a card that really surprised me when I started playtesting with it, because it didn't look like much, but it's 1 and a blue for an artifact, and it says when this artifact enters or leaves the battlefield, draw a card. So it's a Wellspring Ichor for people who like play Pauper or like old school Magic. But then it also has 1 and a blue and sacrifice this artifact to put a stun counter on up to 1 target tapped creature. And this card just goes insane in this deck. I was shocked by how many cards I was drawing. I felt like if I was getting this on the battlefield, I'm just like, it just never stops with the card draw, because with all of the things that bounce creatures, every time you pick this up, you draw a card. Every time you put it back down, you draw a card. And then you're drawing the things that bounce it and to bounce it again. And you're just like cycling through your whole deck while pumping out all of your creatures that bounce stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you think of this deck, Sass?
I think it's a really, really good idea. I mean, obviously, I kind of told you my feedback. Like, I think if I were to play this, I wouldn't play Splash Portal and I wouldn't play Quantum Riddler. I would just play, like, I think Azorius Pixie can be a very real thing. Again, I want to test more Lightstall Inquisitor to form my own opinion on that, but I do think there will be an Azorius Pixie deck with Cosmogrand Zenith, all the bouncers, Cryogen Relic, Seam Rip, Storm Chaser's Talent. And I think you're just going to draw a shit ton of cards. And I think this deck is going to grind people out of the game, and it's going to feel really, really oppressive.
Yeah.
I did I not call it in our last episode? I feel like I want to give myself props. Did I not call that Cryogen Relic was going to be insane? I have to go back and listen, but like
I think you did.
I don't know if it was
fair.
Like I saw this card and I'm like, is this not insane for Pixie? Like, I don't know. I really, this is my number one thing I want to test, is just Cosmogrand. Last week I said I wanted to do like a Azorius Prowess deck, but like I saw a bunch of like Esper Pixie decks like coming back. And then I was like, Cryogen Relic is just perfect for this deck. Like, I wonder if you even run stock up or some number of stock ups because of just how good Cryogen Relic is. Because like I'm imagining like my opponent playing against this, like they're not gonna like sideboard in a card for like some goofy artifact, right? Like it's the only artifact in the deck. They're gonna bring an artifact hate for Esper Pixie. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, even if they blow it up or something, it still leaves the battlefield and draw a card.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the crazy part is like you can sack it to draw a card and put a stun counter on the thing when you do eventually somehow run out of gas.
Yeah. And you can do it at speed too.
Yeah. I think the little blue ball that could is going crazy, bro.
The little blue ball. That's going to be the official name of this deck in the future, is going to be Azorius Blue Balls.
We should make it Azorius Blue Balls. I was gonna say you can make the episode title "The Little Blue Ball," but never mind. Yeah, I think this is a good idea. Like again, I'm for the version that you made specifically. I think the mana base. I don't think you need that many Restless Anchorages. I think you can play more basics. I think you take out Splash Portal. I don't think this is a Quantum Riddler Splash Portal deck. I think you're trying to do two different things. I think if
fair.
you just play this as Azorius Pixie, I think this is a really, really cool deck. And I want to try the Esper versions to see if if Splashing Black is worth it for just playing literally just Shoot the Sheriff and Kaido. I can't. Is there anything else that Esper Pixie wants in black now other than those two? Like, I don't think Tiny Bones joins up really matters that much.
Yeah, losing Hopeless Nightmare definitely is a huge hit against black, which is why I didn't include black. Black still does have Nowhere to Run, which I think is very good. But
I'm sorry. Yeah, Nowhere to Run and Momentum Breaker. Literally the reasons to be black. My bad. I'm the Esper Pixie player is forgetting his own cards.
But I do think that the Esper mana base with all of the... I think 2 of the fast lands are rotating, as well as as well as all 3 of the ping lands, and I think that just makes this deck's mana base so much worse in Esper, because even though you have a bunch of the shock lands, you're just like causing so much pain to yourself.
But I really don't think it's that bad. I feel like I've experienced true pain of pain lands, right? Like, I've self-inflicted 10 plus damage with the amount of reps. I think that it's actually going to be less than that. Like, I really do.
Yeah, maybe so.
I think what's going to be hard is how consistently can I get 3 minutes. This is always the issue with Esper Pixie, right? Like, can I consistently have untapped in all 3 colors? That's been the whole issue with Esper Pixie and its biggest weakness, because you just have to mulligan so many hands and go to 5, and sometimes you just win at 5 because the deck was just that synergistic. Like, it was such an A plus B deck, and now I don't think it's going to be that much. Like, now I just think this is just going to be like, we're playing 3 colors and we're just going to try to grind to be really mid rangey.
Yeah, I mean, I think
this
both
is great.
Both and see.
Yeah. All right, hit me up with this one.
Give me your rating out of 10 for the Azorius Pixie deck.
Yours specifically, or just in general?
This one specifically.
Oh, this one's a 0 out of 10, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Wow.
I think you.
Holy
this
shit.
Specific list you crafted, bro. I love you to death, but this is not cooking. Like, this, there's 3 removal spells. I think the mana base is bad. I don't like I already said it. Like, I don't want to shit on your parade, but I'm gonna be honest with you if you ask me to be honest.
GG. Fucking destroyed. All right.
Tell me about Modern, man. Tell me about these Modern decks.
Yeah, I'm burying my shame by just doing the exact same deck, but in Modern. So this is basically the existing Modern deck that's Esper Blink, except here I've added Quantum Riddler because I think it's just a really good card. And I think that to give the backstory, I built this deck first because I think this is probably a much more reasonable deck. And then it inspired me to try the standard version, which I think is probably not great. But this one is effectively just the Blink package in Modern, which is very, very strong. So we have Ephemerate in Modern, which is really, really powerful. We have Felia, which is the dog that can flash in and blink things when it attacks. We have Flicker Wisp, which ETBs and blinks things. And this is already super synergistic with the package of like Overlord of the Baelmerk, milling things and getting them back and turning into a creature. It's great with Solitude. It's great with Witch Enchanter because it's a land that you can blink and turns into a creature that destroys an artifact or enchantment. I put some Recruiter in the guard just because you can blink this and grab. It's basically a tutor for any 2 or less creature. Put some Psychic Frogs just because Psychic Frog is so powerful. But the addition of Quantum Riddler to this deck I think is really unique because previously this deck, one of the like really powerful plays you could do was play a turn 2 Overlord of the Baelmerk, play a turn 2 Felia, and then turn 3 play an Overlord of the Baelmerk Impended and swing with the Felia to blink the Overlord of the Baelmerk and bring it back as the 5/5. I think Quantum Riddler it's not as strong as Overlord of the Baelmerk to be sure, but it is like another card that basically does the same thing, where you can flash in Felia, warp in Quantum Riddler for 2, and then when Felia attacks, you blink the Quantum Riddler, and you've gotten 2 card draws and a 4/6 flyer, which for Modern is a massive threat. Like, nothing short of a Murktide Regent can really compare to that size of creature in the air. So I think that this is a much more supported archetype.
Yeah.
You can also just ephemerate this when it enters if you want, things like that. So
Yeah.
I think this is a much more reasonable way of approaching this deck, and I do think that this might see some Modern play, and I'm excited to test this at like FNM and stuff.
I agree. I really like this deck. I think it's really, really cool, and this is something I want to test out and play as well too. This just looks like a cool deck. I think this might be a new archetype of deck in Modern. Again, I don't play enough Modern to speak on this, but this looks really cool and it seems really powerful. And I know the Esper Blink deck is already a thing, so
Yeah. I think also notably the Riddler works with Ephemerate where Overlord doesn't, because Overlord's an enchantment with it when it enters, so
yeah.
in some ways
Yeah.
Riddler's even more powerful.
Yeah.
We'll see where
I
it
think
goes.
Quantum Riddler is insane. And also the Quantum Riddler alt art is the most beautiful thing ever.
I'm glad that you like it, because I'm gonna pull this
Bro,
alternate art up. I
you're
think
taking
this art
such
is
an L on
trash.
this. I've talked about this I literally messaged someone on my friends list about this who literally is just getting back into Magic now, and he was like, this is the coolest art ever. He was like,
Huh?
Sass, isn't this like a really good card? Like, I know I'm new to the game, but like this card just reads really, really broken to me. And I'm just like, yeah, man, this card is like, I think this is going to be like, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think Quantum Riddler is going to be the most impactful card from Edge of Eternities across all formats. That's my hot take. I'm going to say it right now. I've come so far above on this card, and I feel like it was so under the radar for me. But I did not realize how good Quantum Riddler was until between now and the last time we did this.
That's a hot take. I'm not sure that I agree. I don't know what I would pick though. I do think, like, if we're talking about the card that sees play in the most formats, I'm thinking like Timeline Color can see play in any sacrifice deck, and I think Seam Rip is good in any enchantment deck. But Quantum Riddler is a very powerful card in multiple formats.
I just think big body, flying, draw a card, and the fact that I can cheat this out easily in all formats. I don't know. I just think this is a card that's here to stay.
A fun synergy in Modern with this card too is it has the trinket text of, as long as you have one or fewer cards in hand, if you would draw one or more cards, draw that many cards plus one instead. So basically this is like, if you only have one or nothing in your hand, you get to draw two.
Right.
And so I think the cool part about this in the Modern deck is when you're running Psychic Frog, when this ETBs, if you want, you can just like dump the cards in your hand to Psychic Frog down to one, and then this is a draw two instead of a draw one. And if you blink it, you can do the same thing with your frog again, and basically just like make a massive fucking Psychic Frog as this enters and blinks, which I think is very fun.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, that is all the brews that I had. I think we wanted to wrap up with some.
Didn't you have the Affinity one?
Oh, you're so right. We can't forget this Affinity deck. Okay.
Because this is the thing I'm most fearful of in Modern right now. As someone who doesn't play Modern as much as I think you do, I do not. The one time we tested this and the videos I've been watching of this deck have been making me very upset.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different builds for this similar idea right now, but this is effectively like a classic Affinity deck running the new card Pinnacle Emissary, which we talked about last week again, but it's the one that it's 1 blue-red for a 3/3, and whenever you cast an artifact spell, you create a 1/1 colorless flyer drone. It's an artifact creature, and it can't block. Or sorry, it can only block creatures with flying. But basically, some of it is anytime you cast an artifact, you get a 1/1 flyer. The thing about it is that because it has warp for a single blue or single red, this creates really, really crazy turns in the Affinity deck, where you can basically go turn 1, play my land, immediately warp this guy in, and then just go crazy with my 0 mana artifacts. And so there are lines where you can, like, after you've warped it in, you can cast a Mox Opal and trigger it. So now you have 3 artifacts on the battlefield because of the Opal, the guy itself, and the drone. You can use your Mox Opal to warp in another one, trigger the first one. You can then play another Mox Opal, trigger both of them, use your Mox Opal to play something else. And I think people have calculated it's possible to get up to like 6 drones on turn 1. So you can get 6 1/1 flyers on the first turn of the game. And they're all also artifacts, so that means anything that has affinity, like Kappa Cannoneer or like Thought Monitor, all cost like 1.
1, yeah.
So it's kind of, I've been goldfishing it, and it feels like it's, if you get the high roll, you feel insane. If you don't get the high roll, it just feels like affinity. So, Mango! That's his cat.
I think this deck is disgusting. I don't like the play pattern of this. This gives me very much like old Grief Scam vibes, where if like they have it, it's like the game ended before it even started. It kind of just feels like your opponent just walked up with Exodia in their hand, like ready to go. Like, I really, really do not like this. Like, this shit makes me really, really sad. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I think the fact that you can literally just roll up and say turn 1 6 1/1 flying artifacts and cast Thought Cast for 1 the next turn, or Metallic Rebuke for 1 the next turn. I don't know, bro. Like, that does not seem fair to me. That does not seem okay. And this is gonna happen. And I've watched it happen. Like, I watched an Andrea Mengucci video about it. I watched who else did I watch do this, something very similar to this? I can't remember. I watched someone else do something very similar to it too. But it happens. Like, it literally happens. Like, turn 1, Mox Opal, Mox Amber, Mistress Bauble. There's just fucking 4 fucking 1/1 flyers turn 1. Like, that's gonna happen a lot.
In addition to this, which I think is fun, is Michiko's Reign of Truth, which is maybe a little bit too clunky, but it's a saga that you can cast for 1 and a white. And the first 2 chapters say target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each artifact and or enchantment you control.
Oh my god, bro.
So if you make a bajillion flyers on turn 1, then on turn 2 you play this and you pump one of your flyers by like +6/+6 or something, and just beat them in the face, and then you do it again the next turn. So you've essentially set up like a turn 3 lethal if you can do the crazy turn 1 thing.
I didn't even think about this. Is this did you get this from someone, or is this all you? That's actually pretty Giga Brain.
This was in like a really old Affinity build that I saw somebody make, and I thought it was fun, and I just like filed it in the back of my mind. And as I was building this, I was like, what was that card that like pumps all of the artifacts?
Is there not an effect that does this better?
I don't know.
I feel like there has to be in Modern. Like, some random Kamigawa Uncommon does the All That Glitters effects.
The thing is, it does it twice. I think that's what's powerful. And then the backside of this is also pretty decent. It's basically a creature that just gets that effect. So this is also a giant creature in your deck.
This deck's gross. I don't know. I hope it doesn't pop off. It's
10 out of 10. Baby.
I don't know. It's fucking awful.
GG.
It's disgusting.
All right,
you ready?
Let's hear your rant. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Okay. I got very depressed this weekend thinking about the fact that Spider-Man is the next set that we have to deal with. And I say deal with because that's how I feel like it is. I saw a lot of posts online of a lot of people upset about it. I kind of talked about this last week. But I'm going to call this... I'm going to have some very hot takes, okay? And I'm very open to getting shit on. I'm calling this now. I think this is going to be the worst Magic product of all time.
That's a huge hot take.
I know Aftermath is probably like... Aftermath is the worst thing in all time, but I'm pretending Aftermath like isn't a set. Like, let's exclude Aftermath. And then I think this is the worst set of all time, okay? Because Aftermath really was like a joke of a product, okay?
Wait, hold on. Are you saying like worst selling set of all time?
No, just worst received. Like, I think because it's Marvel, there's no shot it's not going to make them some money. I would be a little surprised, honestly. I would say just a tiny bit surprised if they went negative on this. But I don't think it's possible for an IP as big as Marvel to go negative because of just the amount of people who play Commander, the hype for this set, the intertwine between like people who love Superman stuff and Marvel. I personally don't think it's that high, but I'm being open to being proven wrong. Okay.
Okay.
So again, I'm going to start this rant off by saying I'm very, very biased towards superhero fantasy. I don't like it. I don't think it has a place in Magic universe. But I understand that this is why they call it Universes Beyond, right? They're trying different things. They're trying different arts. I think Universes Beyond is a really cool idea, but I don't think it has a place in competitive Magic, okay? Like, I think it's okay for Spider-Man to exist in Commander, right? Because, and personally, I know there's going to be some hate on this, but I don't think, like, personally, I'm just going to be so honest, I don't think Commander is competitive. Like, I just kind of think it's a meme, personally, and I know that's a little hateful and spiteful, but I'm just going to be honest.
I think that's
my personal opinion.
CEDH, you know, I feel like most Commander players would agree.
Yeah. But I just think that, like, these cards already look really wonky and goofy. The fact that the next Pro Tour is called Pro Tour Spider-Man is so weird and crazy to say, right? But I think the bigger thing that I'm more talking about, and really just this is the feeling that I get, is that, like, this is the wrong fantasy for Magic, right? Like, Magic is about, like, true, like when I say fantasy, I think of, like, Baldur's Gate, Dungeons and Dragons, like Harry Potter. Like, I have a spreadsheet of things like I created for this, right? But, like, I think that, like, this is, like, not a good example of an IP that should cross over. So I created a list of, like, IPs that make sense for Magic to do crossovers with, and IPs that don't fit, because it's not, like, true fantasy that aligns with this. And again, I know this is just my own personal opinion, and there's so many, this is probably gonna get a lot of backlash, but I don't really care. I think IPs that would make a lot of good sense for Magic to do crossovers with are the following: Dark Souls, Zelda, Elder Scrolls, The Witcher, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, they already did it with Strixhaven, League of Legends, World of Warcraft, Baldur's Gate, they already did it, Diablo, Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight, Hades, Chrono Trigger. When I think of these games, I think of, like, true wizard spellcasting, fantasy, dark arts, like I don't know, like, that feels more fantasy to me, okay? Does that make sense? What do you think of what I'm putting down so far?
I think okay. It's a complex question because on one hand, I do agree that, like, my personal feeling of the vibe of Magic, and not to sound like a boomer, but, like, the Magic that I grew up with, kids, was definitely, like, very, you know, fantasy oriented. Like, I think the first set that I ever played was Core Set 2013, and every creature was, like, a spider or a beast or something like that, and it gave me, like, a very specific vibe. But that said, I do think that Magic has shifted over time and has, like, kind of morphed, and we got sets like New Capenna, which is, like, very, I would say, not fantasy very much at all. Like, it was, I would say, farther from normal Magic fantasy than something like Final Fantasy or anything that you listed in the list was.
I hear what you're saying, but, like, and Kamigawa is another example of this, right? Kamigawa and Streets of New Capenna, they still, I don't know how to describe this. This is just a personal subjective feeling, but it still felt like Magic at its core. And I don't know how to describe that other than just saying it's what I feel like. So, I don't know.
So, I think another aspect of this is people like to see things in Magic that they really enjoy, right? And, like, I know that you, as a huge fan of Final Fantasy and a huge fan of Avatar, you've been incredibly hyped for both of those sets when they were coming out. And I can imagine that, like, people who are huge Spider-Man fans are, like, equally as hyped for the Spider-Man set, even if, like, they would probably acknowledge, like, yeah, it's not high fantasy the way that, like, other sets are. but they might still be super hyped for it. And so I wonder, like, I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum here, but I do think that for me, for example, I'm a person who had never played a Final Fantasy game. And when the Final Fantasy set came out, I was like not hyped for it. I was like, what is this? I don't even know what this is. I was shocked to find out that it was the best-selling Magic product of all time. I was like, huh? Who was going to buy this? I didn't realize that this is a popular set. But clearly I was wrong. And the whole time that we were playing the set, I did feel like a little bit left out in a way, I guess. Like I felt like there were so many like inside jokes and like things that were clearly references on all of the cards that I just didn't get. And I was like, oh, this doesn't feel like my game is like for me right now, is I think how I described it to you before. But over time, like after a few weeks of like playing with cards from the set, I just started to accept them as just like Magic cards that I was playing with in the game Magic the Gathering, which I like. And then I think it like took away a little bit of the bad feels for me. So I wonder, like, do you think that you would have the same experience, or do you think that the Spider-Man cards are like so jarring that you'll just not get used to them?
I just think they're so jarring because, like, in Final Fantasy, right? Like, there are cards that are literally called Fire Magic. Like, that makes sense in high fantasy, right? Mm-hmm. In fucking Spider-Man, there's a card called the Whip, which is just Spider-Man doing a twirl. That's a combat trick, right? That is so jarring and out of place. Like, it doesn't... I feel like I'm getting trolled. Like, I legitimately feel like Wizards is trolling me. And I know that, like, everyone has their own subjective experience about this. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who really, really are super hyped for this. And I'm happy for them. I don't want to hate on them. Like, I don't feel like this is a good decision. And I just feel like it doesn't make sense. So, following up with what I said, I did the other side, okay? So I did examples that make sense. Here are some examples that I don't think make sense at all, right? Pokemon, Mario Brothers, any shooter franchise like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Overwatch, BioShock, Minecraft, Fortnite, and I'm going to come back to Fortnite, and you're not going to get that part, but I'm going to come back to Fortnite. Batman, any like superhero fantasy stuff like doesn't really necessarily make sense with this. Half-Life, Fallout, Sonic, Metroid, fighting games. None of these make sense in what you think of is Magic, right? And I want Magic to be that high fantasy that it is. And I'll be honest, I feel like Magic like started really turning away from that after Ixalan, because after Ixalan we had like the whole it started as soon as we had MKM, because MKM we had MKM, OTJ, and then Dustmorn. But Dustmorn felt a little bit more Magic-y because of just how nice the art was. But I didn't like the whole Ghostbusters thing to it. And then I thought that Edge of Eternities was going to kind of go back to that theme, but it actually didn't. Like, Edge of Eternities feels like true Magic because they're introducing this whole new plane, all these like Edge of Eternities, it's not just all the Magic characters in spacesuits. Like, it feels like this is Magic. Like, this is just a whole new plane that they're introducing, and it's really fucking cool. And and again, it's the same thing I said earlier. It's just a feeling. So overall, sorry, did you want to say something? I want to give you a shot.
Please finish.
If there's something you want to say in response to that. Okay. So my overall feeling is that Magic feels like, and this, I'm going to explain this to you because I don't think you're going to get this. Because for context, River has not played Fortnite. And for anyone who hasn't played Fortnite, I'll explain this. But Magic feel like it's becoming, I feel like Magic is becoming Fortnite the trading card game. And that feels really scary to me. And I really, really, really hope that if they show another timeline like they did last year, it's going to be one Universe Beyond set, maybe two, and not two back-to-back. And instead of like the three pretty much back-to-back like this is. So that's just how I feel. And so what do I mean by that? Okay, so if anyone who hasn't played Fortnite doesn't know, if you play Fortnite, so many IPs cross over with Fortnite that Fortnite isn't even its own game anymore. It's every game. Like at the core of it, Fortnite is a shooting game, but any and everything that you could think of is probably a Fortnite skin, reference, meme, arena. Like, it's so crazy, dude. Like, it's so crazy how many crossovers Fortnite has because it's a very, very big IP. And I think that makes sense for the high octane fun that goes into shooting games, but I don't think that makes sense for strategy games like Magic. And I know that I'm being very nitpicky here, but that's just how I feel again. I'm okay with Universes Beyond. I think there can be places where it can be good. But I think if you're going to go like completely out of Magic, it should be for Commander. Well, go ahead.
So it seems like all of the examples you listed of things that fit are things that like inherently have like a system of magic in the traditional sense of how we think of magic. And the things that you listed don't make sense are things that are like more technologically advanced or like more like realistic in a way. Like it's just people and maybe they like have a superpower, or like Minecraft is just people but you build things. So to you, is what makes magic that like sense of like some sort of magical presence or like a magic system in the world? Is that what does it for you?
Yeah. That, and like I think like high fantasy. So think like elves, thieves, like standard class systems, like castles, like magical forests, like that type of beat. And I know there's a lot of Magic sets that don't do that.
So this is, I think, a great point. But where I'm struggling internally, just I'm struggling internally all the time, guys. But with this in particular, it feels to me as though this Fortnite-ification of Magic is not good because I'm used to a different type of Magic. But I can't like prove to myself that just because it's something I'm used to, like that doesn't necessarily mean that the change is going to be bad. Like it feels like it will be, but I don't have any evidence. Like maybe it's actually super fun to play the Spider-Man set. Maybe they like make like Magic, Minecraft in a year, and it's really, really fun. And everybody's like, oh, remember when we were kids and you got crushed by gravel or whatever, and now that's like the sacrifice a creature spell? Like, it's possible that people really enjoy it. I don't know.
This is a hard point to like back up for me because it's very subjective. Like this is at the core of it. This is just a feeling. Like this isn't. There's no like hard evidence to say like I feel like if I really did a little bit more research, I could like show like I could come up with some better points. But like this is really just a feeling at the end of the day for me. But like it's not all doom and gloom. Like I do think the Avatar set can be good. I think that again that it's an IP that feels like it is in Magic, right? And I think that the set afterwards, and I do want to talk about. I wanted to hear your thoughts on it. I'm so hyped for Lorwyn Eclipsed. There's never been a set in a while that I'm like generally like, other than the Final Fantasy set, and like honestly, I'm trying to think of the set. Probably Tarkir. I was really hyped for Tarkir, right? I'm so hyped for Lorwyn Eclipse. That really just sounds like true fantasy and like what Magic is.
It seems really cool to me too. I mean, I was not playing during like OG Lorwyn, but I know that there's a ton of hype around the set as a whole, and that a lot of people, it's like super beloved. So I'm excited to see what it's like, for nothing else, just to like experience a plane of the Magic multiverse that I've heard so much about but never gotten to experience firsthand.
I think this is going to be the set that finally pushes my Fairy Tribal deck. This is the set for fairies, right? Like this is the set that Thoughtseize is from, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Wilds of Eldraine is in the same like standard format, maybe we'll have enough fairies combined between the two to make a good deck.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll reprint Utatama.
I also just want to say, I'm completely open to just going back to Avatar. I'm completely open to Avatar flopping just as much as Spider-Man, and I'm totally going to recognize that at these takes that I'm having for the viewers, I'm very, very biased, and these probably aren't good takes to have. But again, that's just how I feel. Anyway, I think like Spider-Man is going to be an L for me, and maybe I'll just sit out. It just is what it is.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. I was gonna say that I might sit out too, but I feel like it's still Magic. Like I'm still gonna play it.
I think depending on like if and we'll review the cards and share in another episode, because there's two that I'm like kind of like I could see it. Like if I don't know, we didn't even talk about the whole debacle with how this reflects on Arena, but like that's another thing for another time. But like if there are some cards that are like outliers of power that I'm like, I'm down for this, then sure, maybe I'll suffer through the art that I feel and the theme that doesn't make sense and deal with it. But for now, I'm feeling like I might just not buy any. I might not even go to any drafts for Spider-Man. Like, that's how I'm feeling right now.
Well, hey, for now, we have space cards, we have terrible station cards, we can warp things and pretend that Spider-Man doesn't exist.
Yes, sir.
All right, I think that does it for us this week. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.
We gotta harmonize better next time.
GG. Thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode of the Scry Guys podcast. As you can tell, we're a bit of a newer podcast, so do what you can to spread it around, share it with your friends, post it on social media, basically anything to make us rich so that I can get a real editor and stop doing Sass's dirty work. You can contact us at scryguyspodcast@gmail.com, and have an amazing week.